I think I'm sorry for being on time. But I will call to order this meeting of the Capitola Planning Commission. And let's begin with a roll call, Jackie.
Commissioner Newman?
Here.
Commissioner Smith? Here. Commissioner Welch?
Here.
Commissioner Westman?
Here.
Chairperson Story?
Here. Will you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I did want to take this opportunity to announce that the meeting is cablecast live on Charter Communications, Cable TV Channel 8, and AT&T UVerse Channel 99. It's being recorded and will be replayed on the next Monday and Friday at 1 p.m. on Charter Channel 71 and Comcast Channel 25. Meetings can also be viewed on the city's website at www.cityofcapitola.org. And tonight, our technician is Lynn Dutton. And now we'll move on to additions and deletions to the agenda. Do commissioners wish to request any from staff?
There has been a request to continue item 4C to the October 4th meeting. The applicant is working with the Coastal Commission to make sure that their development does not qualify as new construction.
With that, well, I'll entertain a motion to continue that item, but I do want to disclose that I am recused because that is in my geographical circle of conflict.
Do we want to do that as part of the consent calendar?
To continue it, or
I think so. I think it would be best to do that when we get to the consent
to
calendar.
do that? Okay. That sounds good. Thank you. So at this time, we'll go to public comments. Are there members of the public that would like to address the Planning Commission on items that are not on tonight's agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to commission comments. Are there any? Seeing none, staff comments?
No comments.
No comments. Okay, it's a quiet evening. We'll have then the approval of the minutes of the Planning Commission regular meeting of July the 19th, 2018, and the regular meeting of August 2nd of 2018. And maybe we could handle those in one motion if that's possible. But are there any requested changes?
No, I just need to not vote on the August 2nd minutes because I was absent on that one.
And why don't, I'll split those up then, and then, yeah, let's, we'll then just focus on item 3A. Is there a motion to approve?
I would so move.
And there is second.
Seconded.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously, Jackie. So then on to item 3B. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve.
The motion and a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I'll recuse myself on that one.
So, next then, we'll go on to the consent calendar. These are matters that will be handled with one vote unless anyone wishes to pull a consent item. Do commissioners wish to pull a consent agenda item?
I don't wish to pull an item, but I do wish to point out an error on the item number B4775 Garnet. On the cover sheet of the site plan, the site is mismarked.
I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be garnet, not emerald.
I'm pretty sure. Leslie moved it.
Because that would make a difference whether or not I can vote on it, I think.
Yeah, we can make sure that's updated when it comes in for building plans.
Okay,
So I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar with continuing item C, the 106 Sacramento, to our next regularly scheduled meeting.
Actually, if I could, I would like to maybe handle A and B and
Sure.
have C as a separate vote since I must recuse myself.
Okay,
So,
I'll change my motion to recommend approving A and B on the
Thank you.
consent calendar.
okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second on A and B. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Then is there a motion on item, to continue item C?
I'll make that motion as well.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I will recuse myself, as I've said now for the third time. So the motion passes. So now let's move on to public hearings. The first is 210 Central Avenue. Can we have a staff report, please?
210 Central, the applicant requested a continuation also because they need additional time to put the story poles up. We'll be sending out an email. We've asked them to place them 1 week in advance. And once we know the timing of when the story poles will go up, we'll be letting you know. So they'd like that continued to the 2 meetings out to November 1st, 2018, due to the logistics of booking story pole companies.
Are there any members of the public that would like to address the commission on that item? You're the only one, so that's. And seeing none, we'll bring it back to the commission for action. And I do want to disclose to the commissioners that Katie and I met with the applicant on Friday, August 31st, just to discuss the story poles and give them some guidance. And they did, they made a comment about not being able to find the actual procedures online, which we may want to book that for, future discussion about having, established and discrete procedures for future applicants. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to continue this item.
I would so move.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Which brings us to item 6B, which is 609 Capitola Avenue. This is the design permit and conditional use permit for an addition to a historic single-family home previously with a variance, but I understand that that's been withdrawn. And so, why don't we just get into the staff report on this item?
Thank you, Chairman Story. I just want to point out, first of all, that the numbers that I'm going to be using in the presentation today were based on the final plans that were submitted yesterday. So in case you hear a floor area that doesn't sound like what was in the staff report, that's because it changed slightly with the plan changes. So 609 Capitola Avenue. The applicant is proposing a 774 square foot addition for an existing single-family historic residence in the R1 zoning district. The application with the modified plan submitted on September 5th requires only a design permit and a conditional use permit, and the variance is no longer required, as you mentioned. The existing residence is, as I mentioned, historic, one-story, single-family home. The defining characteristics include the H-shaped plan footprint with its many narrow gables. You'll see the H a lot more clearly on the existing floor plan. The north and south side gables and eaves and trim, the front and south side focal windows, and the front door with the distinctive oval viewing window. The structure also has wide horizontal siding under the north and south side gables, shingle siding under the front entrance gable, narrow horizontal siding from the top plate to just below the windows, and board and batten siding below. There's also a front deck extending to the southeast corner of the building that is covered by a trellis. And an existing non-conforming detached garage is located at the northwest corner of the site. The garage was relocated from what is now 612 Oak Drive, the lot behind this, when the lot was subdivided. And the location, which does not meet the setback requirements, was approved with a variance under permit 00-54 in 2000. This is the existing floor plan. You can clearly see the H shape referred to in the historic review. The attached garage would require a second driveway with a new approach, shown in green, which would result in the loss of one street parking space. The existing driveway on the right-hand side, shown in purple, includes enough spaces to satisfy the parking requirements, so the second driveway is not required by the code for this project. The property is located in the coastal zone, approximately half a mile from the beach and 400 feet from the Capitola Avenue, Bay Avenue intersection, in an area with a high number of commercial establishments. This is the proposed floor plan with the modified garage that was on the plans yesterday that meets the required rear yard setback. The proposed project includes a significant alteration to this historic structure. Significant alterations to historic structures require approval of a conditional use permit by the Planning Commission, so that's why that's included with the project. The historic architect reviewed the application for compliance with the Secretary of Interior standards and made findings that the design complied with most of the standards, but a few elements did not fully comply. The review included 5 recommended revisions that would make the project fully comply. The project, the revisions, and added conditions will be in compliance with 4 out of the 5 recommendations. The only item not addressed is item 5, which involves the roof slope on the new addition, because there was some disagreement between the designer and the architectural historian regarding the appropriate slope of the roof on the new addition. So these are the existing elevations. A commissioner emailed me earlier today about whether the inconsistencies called out in the historic memo were cleaned up, and they were. So now the existing and the proposed that I'll be showing you here match. So that was important on the window detailing that you see on the east elevation and the south elevation on the focal windows. So these are the proposed elevations, and this has the modified garage size. So if you look at the south elevation on the left-hand side, it has the shortened garage. And then on the bottom there, I did a call out for the shortened eaves. They were 2 feet and they were reduced to 6 inches. At the Architecture and Site Review Committee meeting on July 25th, the designer told the subcommittee that he had created a draft roof plan with a lower pitch, which was never submitted to the planning department, and thought it looked out of place with the rest of the building, and said that it conflicted with commonly accepted design principles. In order to have the roof slope of the addition match the existing 6 and 12 roof slope, the proposed project includes a flat roof in the middle. I called it out there, the rectangle in the center. With 6 and 12 roof slopes going to the edges of the roof from the corners of that rectangle. While the roof slopes of the addition do match the roof slope of the existing structure, the result is that the roof design increases the massing of the structure. The architectural historian recommended that the roof slope of the proposed new addition be revised to less than 6 and 12 because a lower roof slope would lessen the impact of the currently proposed roof massing at the rear addition. This roof plan sketch was provided by the architectural historian as an example of what the modified roof could look like, and the next slide shows what this roof slope would look like on the elevations. These sketches also include the shortened eaves on the garage that were incorporated into the plans yesterday. So these are the alternative, we'll call them the alternative roof plans provided by the architectural historian in elevation view. And I'm going to put these side by side so that you can see these better later in contrast. Staff is requesting direction from Planning Commission regarding the slope of the roof of the addition to this historic structure. The next several slides show 2 different roof styles from each elevation. So this is the north elevation, north and south, sorry. And this is the west. Oops, I missed one there. If the Planning Commission supports the recommendation of the architectural historian, staff will add the following conditions to the conditions of approval. I'm just going to read it here. Prior to issuance of building permit, the architectural historian shall sign off on a roof plan that has no flat roof and less than a 6 and 12 slope. I know what happened. There were 2 of these. So Staff recommends the Planning Commission review the application and approve project 180189 with the revised conditions of approval included with the September 5th errata that removed the language about the variance and included the additional conditions from Public Works. Second, I'm gonna. It's back. Or actually, that's the end of the presentation. Can we switch to the other one?
Thank you, Matt. Do commissioners have questions about the staff report?
Not at this time.
Would the applicant like to address the commission? Hi, Dennis.
Good evening, honorable commissioners. A couple issues in this thing. This has been really a moving target, and this is a historic house. And if you drove by it when this addition is completed, as we have a plan, you will not see any change in the house whatsoever. The roof line, where we flattened the roof, was made intentionally so you could not see it from the street. The only way you could see it is if you drove down the driveways or stood at the neighbor's houses and see the back of the house. Two things with this. In the comments by the historian, but putting a pitch on the back of the house, it's a different pitch from the rest of the house. It's totally unarchitectural. It's something you just don't do in architecture. You don't take two pitches and run them together. And so the house would look misformed if we do it this way. Also, Carolyn Swift agreed, who sat in the Arkansas Review Committee. She agreed with us too that it should be a flat roof with the same pitch in the back. The historian is the only one that believes this. The flat roof you'll never see. You won't know it. You just see the ridge just like you'd see the ridge line in any house. So we feel very strongly that the design of the back of the house, the way the roof is the best thing for the structure. The window treatments. The idea is to preserve all of the windows as you see them. In other words, they're multi-grids, very expensive windows. If you walk up to the front of the house, you'll see they're impossible to keep those windows. But we can have them rebuilt identical to what's there. And what we're asking, and I'll give you a little education in vinyl coating on windows and what it is and what isn't. And we have two of them here, and you can see that a normal layman cannot tell the difference between a vinyl trim and a wood trim. This is one with vinyl trim and without. And so even in historic houses, you cannot tell the difference. The difference is the longevity of the window and having to paint everything. So visually, you can't tell the difference. And you can even get it in gloss or semi-gloss to match identical to what the colors are now. Okay. So the intent of the owner is to replace all the windows and identical to what they are now. There will be nothing on the existing structure that is changed in siding and trim and everything. We'll document every single piece of trim on that house as we do this. There was a third issue, the issue of the garage. We prefer that we be granted the variance, and I'll tell you why. Is that only with a variance, because the historian wanted us to put the garage back to where the eave of the gable end comes down to the end. Set that back, we moved the garage back, and it pushed us. We didn't originally have a variance, but she pushed us back. So to put a 20-foot garage, which is your code on the inside, and also is a reasonable distance because it allows a person to get out of their car and walk around the end of it. 20 feet isn't in. So we're asking for a 3-foot variance to the rear yard. And that's to keep the architectural character of the side of the house. Now, the alternative is to go to a shorter garage, as discussed with staff has discussed with you, where we go to a 17-foot 6 garage. A 17-foot 6 garage is a difficult size because you can get out of your car, the width is fine. It's the fact that you won't be able to walk around the end of it. It'll be that short. That difference of 2 feet makes a big difference in the length of a garage. And I think your code is correct. 20 feet is a good length to have a garage. So what we prefer with this is we would like to keep the roof line as we have proposed it, number one. Number two is we would like to have a variance to the rear yard setback just for the garage of the 3 feet. We will accept if you decide to give us the 17-foot with no variance. We'll accept that too. But we've gone out of our way in these plans and with the help of staff to keep the historic character of this house. It's the owner's intention. They're going to move in themselves into this house. They have a renter there now. They actually have owned the house for a number of years. They did a land division in the back where they separated a lot. They own it. They're going to move in themselves, and they would like to have an attached garage so in their elder years now that they can easily go to the garage from their house.
Can I add something?
Certainly.
I've been living in, this will be my third home at the lawn. I don't move that much. We are both in the 70s. That's my wife. We both own the house. And we're gonna stay in this house probably for the rest of our life, whatever that might be. I don't know if it's gonna be 5 years, 10 years, 20, I don't have no idea. But like I said, we're already in the 70s. We have been living in houses where the garage is attached to the kitchen. You get out from the house, you're in the kitchen. If it's raining, if it's dark, if there's a prowler or whatever, at least you're a little safer rather than have a garage not attached to the house. We understand in the olden days, people used to do, used to be for the horse and buggy, will be away from the house. Then they changed it to be separate. But in the modern time, unfortunately, people like to have the house attached to the garage attached to the house. So that's a big plus for us. I've done a lot of research on windows, and everybody that's in the window business, they discourage me highly to get a wood window. In the olden days, this clad finish didn't exist. Now, we're gonna make it look exactly the same, with the same grid pattern, with the same size, except the finish on the vinyl or whatever you wanna call it, it lasts, it doesn't need maintenance, because otherwise you gotta paint it, and that doesn't ensure that the window doesn't decay after a while. The existing window, they're great, they look great, they do a great job to the house. However, they have termite issues, they don't open, they rattle when it's windy. I'm gonna leave it there. I don't wanna get any money on their house. So I like to put new windows. Yes, it would be great if I can leave the same window if it wasn't for all those issues. And I don't wanna go paint I'm not gonna paint every 2 or 3 years. So, as you can see, if you wanna check those 2 windows, I'll tell you which one is cladded, which one it isn't. They both look the same. The technology is changing. We are sure the house, we wanna leave it the same. We, so far, haven't touched one single thing of the exterior. And we like to live in the house, and we like to enjoy the neighborhood, and, so we appreciate your time and whatever you're gonna. The other thing is, if we can go 3 feet setback, can we compromise in something in the middle? Because I wanna be able to go in the garage and walk around. I mean, if the car is parked, I wanna be able to walk around. The way we have redesigned now, we gain another 1.5 feet because we shortened the eave, like it was directed by the, what's the name of the, Dale,
Architecture.
historian.
That's the deal,
architect.
yeah.
And she doesn't have to live in the house. She wanted to keep the same window. That's great. I'll save a lot of money. But on the other hand, for one thing, Capitola Avenue is not the same road it used to be 100 years ago. There's a lot of cars going there. Double window, that will give you some noise factor versus a single pane window. And also, when it's cold, because sometimes it doesn't get cold, even in Capitola. It works. So I know the house was built is a great house, and you guys want to look the same look, and I'm not complaining about that whatsoever. But we got to live today, not 100 years ago. So that's that's basically what I have to say. I encourage you to look, I mean, if you can, and you can see that, I can't even tell. I know which one it is because I've asked him. But,
Just to add one thing about the vinyl, is only on the exterior. They're real wood windows.
They're both wood windows.
They're both wood windows, it has a vinyl exterior for weatherproofing. And you can order that vinyl almost any color today.
We're probably gonna use
Can-
white, but that's what's there right now.
Yeah.
We're gonna stay with the same color pattern.
Dennis, is it possible to clad the existing windows in vinyl? I mean,
No, you
Is that
couldn't
an
take it in,
option?
you'd have to rebuild them, Sam.
you would, okay.
The problem is if you go up and look at the wood is in such bad condition on the grids that the window glass is starting to, everybody likes the window glass because it has the melted look to it. But the windows just aren't savable if you look at them. You're very welcome to walk up on that porch and look at them because we did everything we could to find a way to save them, and they've been painted shut for years.
Oh, doesn't work at the top part.
They don't
No,
function
they don't.
anymore. But that's just part of it. It's just, the grid ones are the most difficult ones. The single hung, yes, you could take them apart and you could put the ballasts back into them and probably make those work. But not, the grid ones are the tough ones. I'd like to say one thing about the processes, and I personally have dealt with a lot of historic houses in Capitola, and I'm a big fan of that, believe me. And by doing it, one thing that should be in consideration, this is a perfect example of a house that, this house would look so much better and so much more real if you would let us keep the same design all the way around the house. If you look at what we're doing, we're transcending from a board and batten down below to a siding up above, and all of a sudden we're coming along a wall, and this is beyond the north face. Halfway through the wall, all of a sudden we're changing to a board and batten all the way up and down on the structure. See the one on the upper right? See what happens there? It's like a circus tent. It doesn't look right. And so my contention is that I still think, and Los Gatos does this. They'll let you carry that architectural line. They'll give you a demarcation line there, but allow you to carry the design all the way around. Look how much nicer that house would look if we could take that same alignment all the way around with the beveled lowers and then the horizontal siding and the beadboard siding. More expensive for them, sure, but it would really look in place if we could do that. And we're fine with this being approved, but I'm just saying as a recommendation, look at ways that you can continue architectural style around and still meet Secretary of Interior standards. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Yeah, Susan.
Dennis?
Den-
Was there ever any consideration given to eliminating the existing garage and driveway? I mean, part of my concern, I think it's a gorgeous house. I think it's one of the main historic houses in town. But having, a concrete driveway go down both sides of the houses seems to me to, impact how this historical house looks even more than the roof changes that are talking about or, carrying the materials around. So since the new garage and the driveway there, I believe would meet the parking requirements, I was wondering, do we really have to have all of this concrete on both sides of the houses?
Well, one way we can soften that, right now the driveway on the right is a gravel driveway. It's not a concrete driveway. We can keep it like that. We don't have to concrete that. So it makes the approach to this. The thing that's different about this lot there is it's twice as wide as every lot on the street. It's actually an 80 foot wide while everything else is in the 40 or 50. So it's a wide lot to start with. And I can see the issue of balance. That garage there was built there when they did the land division for the two houses behind it. And I don't know what year that was, but
2000.
2000. So it's not that old. And so,
Also need the extra storage. I mean, I'm moving out from
but we could,
4,400 square foot to
yeah. This is, but we can keep the right-hand driveway in the gravel. It's always been gravel. We can keep it in that if that's a concern. I think you would like to keep the garage.
If I may, there, when the application came in, it was originally discussed with the applicant of, would you consider, or with the applicant's representative, would you consider a, double tandem garage in this location so that not to pave on the left side? And it's my understanding that they didn't want to have to shift around cars as often, so it'd be more convenient to have two driveways when we brought it up.
Get in that, say there is one driveway, and my wife has to get out, and she's in the garage. I gotta move the house, my car into the street, which take another parking space. Once I'm over there, am I gonna move? Probably not, probably gonna stay on the street. And then, so she's gotta wait for me to get out, find parking, if I find parking on the street, which is not that simple to find parking on the street. Capitola Avenue, there is no parking. So, yes, it give a little more parking, but also give me the storage. And if I'm in the house and my wife comes, I don't have to move, and or the other, or vice versa. That's why the two driveway. And like Dennis has mentioned, that's a double lot, basically.
Right, so
We
your
have a lot
plan,
of-
your plan is to keep the right-hand driveway from staying
Yes.
in
But
gravel?
I could either leave gravel or put pavers, which, a lot of people seem to like the pavers, or they're, from the standpoint of a drainage, it's a better way to do it. So whatever you guys decide on that respect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one question. The flat roof, I notice on the plans there's a pull-down staircase. Does that go to
That's-
the flat roof, or
No,
does?
that goes up in the attic area. We need to have, by code, we have to have attic, there's an attic area. Where the pitch comes up,
Okay,
the roof is flat there, you can't go out the top.
so there's
It's
no
just-
access to the flat
No
roof?
access to the
Okay.
top. No, and that's just up to get in the attic to,
Attic access.
attic access.
Yeah,
I was under the impression that the variance request had been withdrawn.
I was too.
No, our first choice would be the variance, but we'll accept it the other way too, so.
But I will go to a huge extent to put a driveway and put a garage and have basically a garage which undersized. I don't have a huge car, but my car barely makes it, and I'll have 2 feet in front, but nothing in the back. So from that point of view, it would be nice to have another foot and a half into the depth of the garage. But if that's not impossible, well, we'll have to live with that.
Well, maybe you should address then why there are special circumstances here that would justify.
Well, I'll tell you what the special circumstances are, is that originally, we had it so there was no variance required. We had a full 20-foot by code garage. The historian, can we see the gable end shot right there, Matt, please? Okay, see the gable, the eave line coming down right there? She did not want us to cut any of that eave off of there, and so she had us move the garage back, so you kept the full length of that eave all the way down that matched the other side. Because we were originally 3 feet forward on this, and we moved it back for the eave cut. So that was a historical consideration, and so it put us in a position where we had to go for a variance if we wanted a full-size garage.
It was her suggestion to move the garage back. It wasn't our suggestion. And we brought that out.
yeah. Please speak at the microphone.
That was a suggestion of the historian, architect, to move the garage back 3 feet. It was not our intention to move it back. Was under her direction, we said, let's move it back. And at the time of the meeting, I did bring it up, it's gonna be past the setback. There were nobody said anything against it. But I see the house next door to mine, the blue house, where there is a, what do you call it? What is it, dentist?
Dentist office.
The house is all over the place. It's got an upstairs. That's an historic house, isn't it?
I don't think so.
I
No?
don't think so.
I don't know.
I thought there was an historic house.
Challen Traegers, I don't believe was.
But even so, even setback, anyway, I'm not gonna go there.
Okay, so, our first, and maybe I may have confused staff in this thing, but our first intention is that what works best for us to give us a variance for this. The second best was give us a variance of even 1 foot or 1'6" instead of 3 feet. That would give us a full-size garage. We can make that work. What we did, we shortened even the front on the gable end of the garage. So we can, if you gave us a 1.5 foot easement in the back, we can make this full-size garage work for him. The third choice is what I gave staff as an alternative, and that is that we have a garage that's 18.6 to the outside, which would make it 17.8 to the inside, fairly short. So,
Thank you.
okay?
Okay, Thank you,
Thank you,
Dennis.
thank you.
Thank you. I guess I wanted to ask staff how it came about that we received this errata indicating that the variance request had been withdrawn and noticed that way.
It was noticed with a variance originally.
Right.
We did receive an email. I received a phone call from Dennis on Tuesday, I want to say, and he brought up the idea of modifying the plans. And with the new plans coming in, it was my understanding, and it may have been a misinterpretation, but with updated plans, I said, you can submit them if you'd like. It was not explained that this was an alternative. To me, it was the modified plans, and therefore, where the plans did not include a variance, we put out the errata stating that the variance was removed. So it was definitely a misunderstanding.
But just to be clear, modified plans were submitted to you.
They were
To your
submitted to us.
department.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. Are any other members of the public wish to address the commission on this item?
Sure.
Yes.
My first time, so my name's Jim Black, and I'm a neighbor
Jim.
on the same street. Thank you guys for your time.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that I'm in support of this project, and I'm really very proud of the work that Dennis has done and the owners to make this be as accommodating as possible to the city. And I just want to say, as a neighbor, I think these are all good suggestions that are all very positive for the neighborhood, keeping the historical part in mind with the decisions you guys make. So that's all I had to say.
Right.
So
Well,
do I need to sign in here or to?
thank you, Jim. Well, if you want your name for the record, just so that we have it accurately,
Sure.
you should sign in.
Great.
Jim, could you identify, I mean, are you a neighbor to the side, or are you a neighbor in the back?
I'm a neighbor to the side on Capitola Avenue.
On Capitola
So
Avenue?
I'm a
Okay,
couple houses down.
great, thank you.
Thank you.
And Jim, I think you dropped something out of your pocket when you stood up. You might
Great,
want to
thanks.
grab it, yeah.
Any other members of the public wish to address the commission on this item? Seeing none, I'm going to close the microphone up front. I'll bring it back to commissioners for discussion and action.
Can I bring something else that I haven't mentioned?
Okay, I'll reopen it then, since nobody else spoke up here. So
I was gonna ask
I'll
my
give you
wife to say something, but
3 minutes.
I shall take a minute. One of the big reasons why we're moving is because my daughter lives close by. That's probably the biggest reason why we're moving. Otherwise, we love where we are. We like Capitola, of course, but that's the big reason why we're
Yeah.
moving, because she's just around the corner.
Yes,
Thank
okay, yeah, welcome. So,
Special circumstance.
yes, there you go, Ed, there's your special circumstances, right? So, is there a commissioner that would like to volunteer to start off our discussions? Anyone? TJ? Yeah?
All right, I love these historical homes, so, I think this is an opportunity for the city and the homeowner to work together and compromise, because, I'm not a fan of the Secretary of Interior standards, and it's been very vocal. In fact, I tried stopping it during our zoning update, but we didn't get there. And I like the way Los Gatos does it, and Carmel does the same thing, because they actually have a group that takes these homes and looks at them as individuals. And Secretary of Interior standards, while it's a process that we have to go the way our board's set up, I guess, I think it doesn't fit every home that we are trying, or we look at in Capitola, and we're trying to force a round peg in a square hole here. This home is a great example of how you're keeping really the look of the historical home all the way through the whole process. Vinyl windows are appropriate, not only because they're going to last in our neighborhood. In fact, most of the homes I see being built on Depot Hill now, and the ones that had to remodel the nice wood sash, they're going to vinyl clad because they last longer. I think from a perspective of energy and just general care, I think it's a good move. No one is going to notice driving by on Capitola Avenue the vinyl versus the wood. So I don't have an issue. I think it should be something that works for the homeowner and is best for the house. The roof line, I am not a fan of changing the roof line to 4-on-12. I have an issue about roof lines. In fact, go look at my roof sometime. There's a lot of roof line there. It makes my house look massive, but to me, what draws an attention and makes the house look that way is the roof line. It has a nice look to it. So I'd hate to see us change to anything less than the 6-on-12 and keep the original pitch on the roof. I don't have a problem with the variance. I understand what the Leslie Dill was trying to do by keeping that eave, moving the garage back. There's plenty of space there. This is a historical. We have obviously an opportunity and a reason to do that because we want to preserve the look of the historical home. So it's not like we're given a special condition. I'm a garage person. I wish my garage was bigger, and it's, trust me, much larger than yours. So I think it's appropriate to allow the homeowner to have a 20-foot garage. So it's our code. It's what we need to, I think, work with the individual. And if that means moving into the setback area, then I think that's appropriate. Mr. Tringali, I don't know if you sell cars. I hope not, because you do a good job of selling your position. And so I appreciate your insight. But I think this is an opportunity for us to work with the Tringalis to keep a historical home, but yet add the efficiencies of some new, nicer windows that's still going to give the same look, and give them a working garage to make it usable and get it out of their home. So for me, I like what's been presented, and I would be in favor of the variance.
Just to clarify, TJ, I wanted to, concerning the roof line, were you saying that you're in favor of the staff recommendation that it should be revised to be less than 612?
No, I'm not. I'm in
you're not.
favor of the architect's
The
design.
rigid,
Yeah,
the
original.
architectural design. Okay, thank you for that.
Can I ask a clarifying question? The issue of the siding on the exterior of the building, not
Oh,
having the
yeah,
board
thank you.
back
Thank you for bringing that up.
all the way around, were you suggesting that this same type of siding should be continued all
Yes,
the way around?
I don't like this hyphenated thing that the Secretary of Interior stands to make it stand out and be different. For me, if it was my home, I would ask the same thing, that they could keep the siding and make it look like, so the portion, the addition of the garage doesn't stand out as something different. So I would be in favor of also allowing the same siding. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for asking that.
Next, who wants to go next? Linda. Yes.
Okay,
You want me to go?
I would
Do we
like
have
to
Ed
hear.
go? Okay, well, for me, there's like 5 issues, and I'll just sort of go through them. I have a bit of difficulty with the variance because I really can't see, it. You know, as the applicant said, this is a double lot, it's flat, it's bigger than most of the lots that we have in town. So somebody would have to work hard to convince me to support the variance. I don't have any difficulty with the vinyl clad windows. I agree, I think technology has changed a lot, and for the average person, they can't tell the difference when they're standing on the sidewalk looking at a house, whether they're vinyl clad wood windows or if they're just plain wood windows. So I could go along with vinyl clad wood windows. I actually think in this particular case that I agree with Commissioner Welsh. This is a house that you are going to see, you know, the various sides of it. And if we could do something, as Mr. Norton suggested, by putting something that delineated what the old part was and what the new part was, then having the same siding continue all the way around would work for me. I can even go along with having the 6 and 12 roof. I think I think it's a minor detail and really looks better in sort of the overall design of the house. I would like to see the one driveway remain gravel. And I would even love to see the new driveway, be designed so it can be as, small as it can, something to, soften it up a bit, because I do think we have a lot of sort of unlandscaped surfaces going down either side of the house. So that's sort of where I am right now.
On the variance?
Variance, I'm a no on the variance.
Can I ask a question, a clarification then? If no on the variance, are you in favor of allowing them to cut into the eave and have a 20-foot garage? That was their original design, and I could do that. I'm open for not doing the variance if we allow them to cut into the eave and still keep a 20-foot garage. And quite frankly, being on that southern side, I don't even know that you're gonna notice it unless you walk up there either way, so.
Well, I think cutting into the eave 3 feet might be a little much, but maybe, cutting into the eave 1.5 feet, or 2 feet you might be able to convince me of that.
You wanna go?
Is
Or
it my
Ed?
turn? Is
Yes.
it my turn? Okay. I'm gonna come down kind of in between
It's fine.
the two folks. When it comes to the windows, it's not the trim, it's the glass. It's the glass that looks old, that you can see looks old. In this particular case, the glass is so small in the gridded area. When I went by today, I wasn't really seeing old glass in the gridded area, but the rest of it does kind of look melted. And if there was some way to keep that look in the windows, I'd be fine with vinyl, the vinyl clad. My difficulty with the variance doesn't have as much to do with the garage as it has to do with giving up a parking place in that corridor. When I went over today, there was one parking place within blocks, and I parked in it so that I could sit there and look and compare the drawing to see what the windows look like. And as soon as I pulled out of it, somebody pulled into it. And I wish there was a way to get the driveway and the garage that they want without giving up that parking place. I struggle with that. I too have always had a problem with the hyphenation. It's never made sense to me. If there was some way to delineate it without changing the siding. And I've seen in some houses, I think there's one over on Central, as a matter of fact, that the siding didn't really change. They did a double band. And they delineated it with that way. So you could tell what was new and what wasn't. If I weren't concerned about the parking, I don't have a problem seeing the preservation of the eave line on that side, because you can see it when you're coming down Capitola Avenue that direction. There's enough distance between the houses that side is pretty visible. And if they brought the garage forward, they'd be compliant, but because it's a historic structure, they're being asked to put the garage back. So not granting the variance because of parking makes sense to me, but from a historic perspective, I could live with the garage being moved backward and that being the justification for the variance, that we're preserving the historic house. Would like to see a condition that the flat roof can never be used as a rooftop deck or a garden. When we approve designs on houses, the person who's living in the house today matters. They matter a lot. But we also have to look forward and say, what's the use going to be if that property sells and it's a whole new group of people coming in. So I'd like to see a condition on the flat roof and a condition that the existing garage can't be turned into an ADU, which I think is okay because of the size of the lot would prohibit that anyway. But if it would be appropriate, I'd like to just see that additional condition on use.
Is that possible?
You know, they would have to come in for an application for an ADU because they're allowed to have an ADU on that property because it's over 5,000 square
Okay.
feet,
I
I
was thinking
believe.
That would conflict
So,
with state law.
yeah, it would conflict with state law.
So can I address the parking? I had the same concern that you had about the parking and losing the parking space in front. So I actually went and looked, and they have an 80-foot wide lot. And so they would actually be able to have a driveway cut in there that is no greater than 40% of the width of the lot, but they could have the width that they have, because it's 26 feet with the two of them added on.
So they're just not together, but they're split and that
So
still
they're
would comply?
split, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, anything else, Linda? Okay.
That was a confusing answer, but sorry, I'm conflicted.
And I don't think that they can do a double pane window with old glass.
No, they can't. They can't. The only way would be to preserve the existing glass in that lower half, which doesn't make a lot of sense if you're replacing it up above.
Right, okay.
Mhm. Yeah. Ed?
Let me know if I miss anything on your checklist.
Okay. I got it right here.
The window is no issue. I agree with everyone on that. The roof line, I agree with the architect, that it would look better with the steeper roof, so no issue on that. The siding change, Commissioner Welch and I are in lockstep on this issue of the differentiation being more trouble than it's worth in many cases, and certainly that extreme differentiation is not necessary. You can do something much more subtle than that, so that someone who really wants to know and look closely can understand that that section's different from the other section. So this is another example, or maybe the best example we've had, of where our historic ordinance kind of causes more trouble than it solves. I mean, we're all in favor. Ever since the McHugh Bianca building was torn down and the Cooper House were torn down right away, we've all, we're not going back to that era, but we can go overboard also. And I don't want to turn our planning process over to historical technicians. And we've got obviously an applicant here and an architect who are doing a great job to preserve an important building in our community, and I think they're doing it in good faith, and we don't need to get bogged down in some of the technicalities that some of the professionals seem to be able to find somewhere in the regulations. So, with that said, the solution to the garage, to me, is to shorten the eve and not to grant a variance. I think that's a better solution. Because I don't really think we're giving up that much in terms of preservation of a great historical asset in our community. And I like to hold the line on variances. So did I miss anything?
So would you propose shortening it how much?
Well, we can discuss that, whether it's the full 3 feet or 2 feet. I'm seeing 2 feet in the audience there.
2 feet?
2 feet will work, because we've already even the front, we
Yeah.
just move it forward.
Yeah, so I think that's a better solution.
Would that still be a 1-foot variance then?
My understanding is you're pushing it forward 2 feet?
No, we're gonna,
The
we need to
garage.
push, to get the other variance, we need to push it forward 3 feet, but it only requires to cut 2 feet off of that eve.
Okay, I understand. Yeah,
So no variance in a
Right.
No,
no
no
var-
variance in a
Yes.
2-foot.
okay.
Did I miss anything?
Can we ask the applicant if they're willing to leave the other driveway gravel? Want to
Or
get that
just
on the record?
impervious surface?
Well,
You want it gravel?
I think I want it gravel.
I'm sorry,
The other driveway, you agreed to leave the right-hand side driveway gravel.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Use that product, what's the name?
Yeah, please speak at the
Yeah,
microphone.
it's a gravel base. It's,
Decomposed
I-
honeydew gravel,
decomposed gravel.
Yeah,
they call it.
it's fine.
Yeah,
Not hardscape, yeah.
okay, yeah. It's like the old driveways used to be.
Can we do just the approach? Because probably I would never park in the garage. I'm just gonna park away from the street. Can we put just portion? I'll probably never park inside the garage. I don't care to park over there. I use for storage or whatever. Can I have it just the first 15 feet with some kind of paver or whatever? Leave it the rest of, that's pretty long driveway. How long do you think the driveway is?
It's
Well,
about
for me, the whole thing needs to be the same material. I think it would look really odd to have a 15 or 20-foot concrete area in there. So, you know, you can talk to the other commissioners, but for me, I would like to see it say sort of the gravel impervious
So
surface.
what
that
happened
it
when
is.
you spin the wheels in this product, you will get them all over the street and
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
They do a oil base on it, so it holds down pretty good.
Really?
People still put in gravel driveways, and they're good bases. They stay in place. They don't like the old driveways. They're not base rock.
Okay.
okay.
Can I ask a
Thank you, Dennis. Yeah.
question?
Oh,
Sure.
Is the current approach, Dennis, is the current approach to that driveway, is it concrete at the street?
No, yeah, just in the curb and sidewalk.
Yeah,
it
In the
is.
curb and sidewalk?
Once you get
Okay, 'cause
past the
that has
curb-
to be
Yeah,
for ADA
yeah,
stuff.
Yeah, once you get past the curb and sidewalk,
Yeah.
then,
Then it's,
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
it's,
what I
it's
thought I
almost,
saw.
when it's done, it's permeable surface, but you can walk on it. It doesn't kick gravel up. It's like a hard pack. People do it in walkways and stuff like that too, so.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you. Well, bringing it back to I guess it's my turn to weigh in on this, and I think I feel like most of the other commissioners, I'm fine with the vinyl clad windows. You know, things have a useful life and they need to be replaced. Even if we required them to keep the old windows, at some point, they're gonna deteriorate. And they're not the most efficient. I mean, if you think of energy efficiency, it is better, I think, to replace the windows. They have the same look as the original windows. Certain things, I think, do have to be improved over time, even in historical structures. Because the important thing is, yeah, people are living in them, and we need to maintain a comfortable living environment. I'm fine with the original proposed roof line, as the other commissioners were. I think it's won't be visible, and to me, I think it is a better architectural look to it. On the siding, yes, as the other commissioners, I agree it should be the same siding. I would like to see some sort of some delineation between what was the original structure and what is now the new structure. And I'll leave it up to the applicant to provide that. Now, on the variance, yeah, I have one on just a process basis, because we have this errata which indicated that the variance request was being removed. And I would have a hard time now in shifting gears because that's the way it's been noticed from any of the neighbors. And if we now have kind of a tension between the pure historical architectural recommendations and imposing into the setback into, you know, the surrounding neighbors behind it, I think I'd rather sacrifice, as Ed proposed, the cutting into the eave, pulling the garage up that necessary 3 feet, so we don't have the need for the variance. And I think,
I think the planning director wants to correct you on.
yes?
So the errata that went out was sent to the planning commission and then placed at the back table. There was no additional notice that went to neighbors regarding the change. So the neighbors and all the
Oh, it
public
wasn't-
noticing that took place included a variance. I just want a point of
Okay,
clarification.
so it was not posted on the website at all,
No, it was
about-
not.
only sent through emails?
Just sent to the planning commission through emails and placed at the table.
And it was sent today, right? Did we get it
Dorada?
today or
Yesterday
yesterday?
afternoon.
Yesterday
I think it was
afternoon,
yesterday.
late
I
yesterday.
saw it this morning,
Yeah.
so.
Well, that raises other questions for me, but we'll, we'll leave that, for another time. But with that, I still think, that, I would, even if the request for the variance stood, would have a hard time, since, as staff recognized, it is an additional garage, okay? And which may take it out of, the need for the special circumstances on an historical structure. But I think that that's what I would, I really like Ed's approach to dealing with that issue. And so with that, I think, are we ready to propose a motion? I also would support, keeping the driveway, the old driveway, in a gravel.
Okay, so if we're gonna make a motion, somebody needs to add a couple conditions when they make the motion.
Why don't you make
Are you ready? Are you? I make a motion to approve the application with adding condition in there that the siding on the house can all remain the same going around, as long as on the plans that come in for the building permit, the designer gets approval of some device to indicate the difference where the old building started, where the old building ended and the new part started. And staff can approve that change. I'd like to add a condition in there that the windows will be made to match the design of the original windows in the house, but they can be a vinyl-clad wood window. That the original driveway on the right-hand side of the property remain in the gravel impervious type surface. That the roof on the garage can be at a 6 and 12 pitch, and that the garage itself will be redesigned to relocate it 2 feet forward, cutting into the eave 2 feet to eliminate the need for a variance.
You meant the roof on the house, didn't you?
Even that,
Roof
yeah.
on the house.
So it'll move forward 3 feet, but it was only
They're
gonna cut
only
2
gonna
feet of
cut
eve.
into the eve
Right,
2
2
feet.
Correct, yeah.
So whatever that gets them, if the garage is 19 feet, 20, whatever, they
Right.
can cut into it 2 feet. And is there anything else?
I think that's good.
Anything
Think
else
that's
staff
covered in-
needs?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
I
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, and congratulations.
Lifted but reasonable.
With that, that'll bring us to the director's report.
I have a couple things to discuss tonight, to bring up. And first, I'll just address the errata that was sent out during that application. It should have been additional materials, and in the future, it will be additional materials. An errata typically goes out when there's a mistake made within the staff report by staff, so we'll fix that in the future. That
Just
it's
an addendum.
it's an addendum, yeah,
So the
and
errata was an errata.
exactly.
was
But
an
we're
errata.
learning, so that won't.
Since you're
again.
talking about that, can I make one comment also? In the staff report, a couple of places it said that things were denied. Things can't really be denied until they come to the planning commission. Am I wrong in that?
No, you're absolutely right in that, and I'll go back and look at the staff report and go through it with staff and make sure that we don't make that mistake. And it was just on that application that you bring, that it was that
I'm not sure which
Okay.
application it was, but it was in the staff report, and I noted it in a couple of
okay.
places. and
Sometimes
didn't-
we'll add that to the conditions, so they're in line with the recommendation, but then if the decision is different, we go back and we change the conditions. So, but I'll take a look at that. Also, an update on 4690 Capitola Road. That home is, they continue to work on the home, and it's in line with the agreements that have been put in place. So, and recently, the city received a payment of $45,000 to cover 10-plus years of staff time working on that and attorney fees. So, but they continue to proceed. They're checking in next week on the project, so at the next planning commission, I'll provide you with the latest update. Robin Woodman joined us as the new building official, so that's great news.
That's
And
shared with Scotts Valley?
Shared with Scotts Valley, and so she started last week within our department. This week she's with Scotts Valley, and tomorrow we're setting up what her schedule will look like now that she understands kind of the dynamics of both locations. We just closed a position for a building tech that's also going to be helping in the building department and do a lot of the processing that occurs and take some of that strain off of our inspector and building official. And I also wanted to bring to your attention that next week, we're going to present for the first time to the city council the idea of the bike share program. As you've seen, probably the red bikes around town that are coming in from Santa Cruz, their system was adopted, I think, in May of this year, and it's been a great success there, and they're going to be taking on that. Right now they have 250 bikes, and they're, with the university is now going to join into their program. They'll be up to 500 bikes, is my understanding, is what they're looking at. So we're going to to the city council to discuss whether or not we should start public outreach to see if the citizens are interested in having a bike share here in Capitola. We'll go to the Commission on the Environment and the Parking and Circulation Committees and provide them with an overview of the concept, and then bring it back to city council for direction. So we're just starting to work on that, and it takes some time to get one of those in place. But just wanted to bring that to your attention. If you have any thoughts on that, feel free to reach out and share. And that concludes the director's report.
Thank you. Go
Do
ahead.
we have any information about what's happening with the Sears site, with Sears closing the store and that application going forward on appeal to the city council?
So the appeal is set for October 25th. We received a letter from or an email from their attorney and a phone call asking to be continued to the November, pushed out. They first asked for January, and then they pulled back to November. Staff, we've been trying to communicate with them of what changes they would like to their plans, and it's been crickets. I haven't heard anything. So at this point, we're preparing to have the city council make the decision of whether or not to continue at the October 25th hearing. So, but we'll be planning to bring forth the appeal and have it heard, if not that evening.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any commission communications? Yes, then.
So, I wanted to bring up the issue, this may have been brought up before, I'm not sure, but of the human sign holders showing up on weekends in the village and in the city with sometimes they call them spinners,
Yeah.
and sometimes, this
Liquidation
last
sale.
Labor Day weekend, we had a liquidation sale someplace on 41st, and they had 2 people
Right.
stationed in town, and they know that the planning, I guess, department people are not working on those days. I think that, I looked at our sign ordinance, and although it's not in black and white, it seems pretty clear that they ought to get a permit, and it's not fair to other businesses who have to go through the sign applications and comply with all the rules, if somebody can just show up with someone in the middle of the street all day with a commercial sign. So I contacted the police department, and I don't know what they did with the complaint, but I think there needs to be some kind of process to have the police let those people know right away that they have to have a permit to do that.
So my understanding is when it's a person holding a sign, it's freedom of speech, and they can be out there with a sign. I also saw a hot air balloon above a mattress company, and we followed up with a code enforcement letter of of warning after the weekend. But if they are standing out there with a sign and they're holding it,
If
my,
it's a
and I'll,
If
securely
it's-
commercial,
Yeah,
No,
commercial
they-
speech?
it's,
I think
they're
the planning-
protected.
you're right.
But I will check back in with our city
Okay.
attorney and make sure there's been no new,
I'd like to dig a
Uh,
little deeper into that, because that could really end up being, I mean, it kind of completely overwhelm all our, sign rules in the village. We'll just be all over the place with signs.
Right.
Yeah, maybe the city attorney could provide us, because I think there are a couple recent court cases about it. And I do agree, I think the court said as long as the person continues to move, they can't stand. That's why you see them sort of dancing around and doing that thing. As long as they're moving, it's a free speech.
They're not a sign then. I
They're
don't
not
know.
a sign.
and you're now seeing like the LED T-shirts that, I'm not sure if you've seen these, but at festivals, you'll see LED T-shirts that are advertising as well. So it's like an electronic sign that
Well,
you.
I'd like to
Or
find a
so.
way around that, because it's, in our village, I think it's a big thing, and maybe we could dig into that a little bit.
Right.
We will.
Yeah, and I concur with that, with the people-held signs. But also want to add to that, I've also noticed there've been signs in the medians, one that advertises church at the beach. They tend to go up on Bay, and so, and I don't know if, it doesn't appear to me that they've gotten a permit. Of course, and also, we all have all the real estate signs, which go up on the weekends, and,
If you read our ordinance, there's this exception for the real estate signs.
right, yeah. But I wasn't aware there's an exception for church on the beach.
No.
And I recently noticed there's a very large sign at the corner of Monterey and Park Avenue for the county fair. I imagine it's on RTC property, but I still, even if it's private or public property, seem like they would have to get a permit, and I don't know if they did have a permit for such a large freestanding sign, and
Big
if,
one.
and if they don't have a permit, I think it should be taken down, or, they should be contacted. And nothing about the fair. I love the fair. I go every year. I spend a lot of money there. I wish them the best, but I think that's an inappropriate place, and the size of the sign. So, any other commissioners have comments about signs? And
Just
I did,
In response to that, we would welcome any time that you see a sign that you'd like to have removed, to send us an email and let us know where the sign is, and we can
Okay.
reach
Yeah,
out.
thank you, Katie.
And then for the public, you can always fill out a code enforcement complaint and submit it to the front desk at City Hall, or mail it into 420 Capitola Avenue, and we'll address any code enforcement issues.
Okay. And could the public do that by email as well to?
They can, it's online, the forms, they can
right.
fill it out and email it in to
Yeah.
us as well.
Yeah,
Since
Lynn.
we're talking about signs, do you have any update on when the signs on the salon at the end of the Esplanade is gonna be changed? We approved that.
Mhm. They were having timing issues with whoever was developing the signs.
Okay.
And Matt, do you know the date that's expected to go in the soap
End of
spa?
September.
End of
Okay.
September.
They've been ordered and they're in production now, and then he's gonna have to come and get a building permit to put them up, so
Okay.
probably end of September.
Thanks.
And Leslie, I did want to follow up, and I appreciate, Katie, you talking about the erratas and the addendums. But to me, it seems like that those should at least be posted on the website, so that members of the public are equally aware that new submissions, and in some cases, changes to plans have come in. And I know, on the notice cards, the green cards that go out, assuming it directs them to the website if they wanted to get more information or see and follow what's going on. So I just wanted to make that request as well. Any other commission comments? With that, I'll adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, I actually went to court on the